What's up, everybody? It's your boy, the Italian Stallion, ready for another episode of Rebels with a Cause. Want to apologize to everybody. Been a very busy week, and for all of our friends and neighbors in our states that here in Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, Florida especially, anybody that was affected by this hurricane. That's what I do for a living, and when you take 1,000 claims and you've been really doing as much work as I have and so forth, it really kind of takes away that's kind of going on. But I want to apologize for coming on late tonight. I want to apologize to our guest who he is backstage, he's ready to go and so forth. So right now I'm just kind of making sure that we have everybody ready to go. Thanks for tuning in. If you catch it live, great. If you catch it recorded, please hit that like and subscribe button. Just got a lot to talk about tonight, and also want to talk to our guest who has taken the time out of his busy day to join us tonight. And I'm so excited because I love this guy. He was such a big part of that 2004 championship team that just got honored a couple of weeks back against Central. So we're going to talk about that. Also got to recap the homecoming game that by that hurricane got delayed to Saturday. A lot of the games did because of school being out on Friday. Got to talk about that big one coming up this Friday against Alcoa, and I know that he'll break it down with us and so forth. So, lo and behold, I just want to make sure that I got some house cleaning to do, that more importantly, that the views and opinions of this program are not affiliated with those of any other organization or of West High School. This is solely the RWAC Crew's views, whether it's Two-Pair Tate, Brian Tate, myself, the Italian Stallion, the coach, Shane McGee. That is just what we talk about. It's all for love. It's all for the passion of being rebels with a cause. Want to also give a shout out to our guy, Alex Thatcher, who has that wonderful coffee brew business down there off Sutherland Avenue, there in the heart of Marble City, Knoxville Coffee Company. Definitely go pay him a visit, and definitely let him know that you got there because of Rebels with a Cause. Him and his dad with that cause, making that brew that's good any time of the day. And also want to give a shout out to my gals over at the King's Chamber, Miss Kim Castle and Miss Rachel Davis. Go pay them a visit there off of the Pike. They got manicures going now. And so pedicure is going to be coming next week, along with all the other things that they offer. So go give them a call. You can schedule a time. The only time they're closed is Tuesday. So definitely go pay them a visit. With that being said, I want to bring on my co-host as possible and get on our special guest who deserves a very proper introduction. But let me bring on my esteemed colleagues. First, want to bring on the coach, who obviously is finishing up his time coaching. I think the season's wrapping up for him, so hopefully he can get a little bit of other stuff done. I know he's got a lot going on, full-time dad, and definitely love that he's part of our show. My brother, the coach, Shane McGee. What is up, man?
What's up? What's up? What's up? Yep. So this week was a little weird with football. So because of all the delays and everything, our game this week got pushed to after fall break for both 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So not many kids at practice tonight. They're all off next week. And then we've got Austin East Thursday for 7th and 8th grade, and I've got Hardin Valley on Saturday.
So I stand corrected. The season's not over. They were also affected by the hurricane and things getting pushed back. So
and then we got playoffs.
Playoffs? You're talking about playoffs? Come on now. So sure.
Hey, two of my teams in the playoffs, and they're pretty good. This game this week determines seeding for both my 7th and 8th grade teams. So
that's awesome.
If we win, we're 4th. If we lose, we're 7th.
So that's a big change in the seedings right there of who you're going to face and everything of that nature. So, well, you know that the show's got your support, and we hope you come out with that dub, because that's what it's all about and so forth. So for sure. So want to also bring on my other co-host. I think he's ready to go and so forth. He obviously needs no introduction, but I give it to him anyway because it's all part of the love. He is our Mr. 2003 West forever and ever. He's also the voice of the running Rebels and Lady 19 plus years, going to be starting a gig with Pelissippi's basketball team, and hopefully has a long, illustrious career being the voice of, I think they're the Panthers. I'm not sure, but yeah, they're the Panthers. So that's how much I, am kind of in tune. So, but glad that anybody better for that role. So, but I want to bring him on. He's my favorite. They're Seminole, as always, the one, the only two-pair Tate. Brian Tate, what is up, brother? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. You guys are doing great, man. And man, it's I didn't get to watch much of the game. I think I watched it on Diamond Clear, like the repeat of it.
Yeah.
Man, like they put together a really good game, like, but when we talked about it last week, it is up against the upper echelon team. Counties, the Powell, the Marivilles. Where do we stack with those teams?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, we saw what we were against Central, but that first half looked shaky.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was the defense and the special teams and the field position that put them in the groove. But have we seen them play a complete football game up against the upper echelon talent?
I would argue that you've not even seen them play a complete football game against any of the teams they've played on their schedule. That's a hot take.
I think they're close, but it's like they have a ton of talent. Like I tell those guys all the time, like Friend, Tavion Ray, McAllister, Rucker, Parker, Dubon, Hank, Harrison. Like, you guys are talented as Perdine. You guys are talented as hell. Jack Key. White, you guys are very talented. But it's all about putting all that talent together for you. That's all.
Yeah, no, you preach, brother, preach. And that needs to be talked about. And, I want to talk about that game. I also want to bring on our esteemed guest who's been waiting patiently backstage for his moment, and he deserves it. And I want to give him the proper introduction, whether he watched the game or not on Diamond Clear Media, because I have a lot to discuss with him, because I feel this team is at the same crossroads as the 2014 team was at this point in the season, where they were winning games and winning with a very large margin, but it was like there was something missing. And and he probably doesn't remember it, but there was a little bit of an argument between the skill players and the offensive line. And then something just clicked in a particular game where it ended up being where they scored 63 points in one half, and they just took out their anger rather on each other against another team that just happened to be William Blount. And from there, they just rolled and kicked ass. And I would love for that to happen against another Blount County team in Alcoa, who is coming in, with only one loss, a lot to play for, and realistically, this is going to be Alcoa's last test before they have Maryville in a couple of weeks. So realistically, you were saying, two-pair, where do we stack against the upper echelon teams? And we're going to find out very shortly on Friday night where we stack up, especially against an Alcoa team that was the only team to beat you in the last couple of years, whether you had injuries or not. I know that the Rebels have been banged up. We've had some key guys that are missing. Hopefully they're back. And if they're not, next man up. Somebody needs to step it up and look and make it be known that we don't bow down or, basically anybody. So we've got to bring it this Friday night against a team that would love to whip us just as worse than what Maryville did a couple of weeks ago. But that being said, I want to bring him on because this guy, I want to say that he never got the glory as much as his fellow seniors did. You've heard of the Max Bacon. You've heard of all them, and obviously his good buddy, the one, the great, the only Nathan Cottrell. But truth be told, more than anything, they had a celebration dance that I love for him to talk about. It mimicked Patrick Swayze lifting Jennifer every time that he opened up a hole for him to score a touchdown. And he was really line as well as a captain on that special team in 2014. Went on to play UT Chattanooga. He was handing out pancakes all the time that senior year to anybody he went up against. And most importantly, he was known as the mini fridge Perry. So I want everybody, wherever you're at, watching this live or recorded, give him his proper due and give him a warm Rebels with a Cause introduction, the one, the only Ryan Mini Fridge Perry. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
The mini fridges made it to
brother,
the oh
man. I don't know if I deserved all that, but I'll take it.
The mini.
Hey, you want to know why you deserve that? You want to know why you deserve that? Because I know Two Pair has the first question to ask, but I want to just say this real quick. That skill players, as fast as they were, as special as they were, it don't happen if you big uglies up front don't open up them damn holes like you did and put people on their asses. And that's what I want to see from this team when you have 4 starters come back on offensive line. And I'm hoping that maybe you can put something out there for them so they can actually be the mean hog mollies I know they can be and bust somebody's ass, honestly. So, and it starts this Friday against a former teammate and some other big uglies on the other side there at Alcoa and the Halls and the Anderson County and the Powells, and we can go on and on and on of what we've got coming up. But it started with you, and you absolutely deserved that praise, brother. You and Keyshawn and all them dudes. And it started up front, and I can't wait to hear those stories of how that all came together. Because you even had a good offensive line in 2013 that fell short, you know? But you had a great coach. I want you to talk about him and his role. But first and foremost, though, Two Pair, ask that question we ask every guest to get this thing going.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it, brother.
You already know what we're going to ask.
Yep.
So, in the time that you've been playing football, Mr. Ryan Perry, who was the first person to bust your ass?
So I actually have the same exact answer as Nathan.
Okay.
I'm sure that I had a couple like in-game sophomore year, but the friendly fire hits a little different. So, man, one day board drills, Zach Stewart steps up. Who wants it? And I'm a sophomore. I've been working my ass off. Yeah, he got me. So I'm feeling all right. Like I'm gonna take it. So I step up and I beat him. Come off. He's not expecting it. Like I roll him. And then all of a sudden he is losing his mind, calling me back onto the board. Like I'm terrified. I'm trying to play it cool. And I've never felt more like a child in my entire life. It was quick. It was ugly, and the entire team was watching. So Zach Stewart, kudos to you. You whooped my ass. And then the other one, man, that was a consistent basis. Big Lakin Smith. I genuinely felt like he hated me. I think it was just like I was a little brother that he was trying to lift up. But at practice, it felt like every day he wanted to embarrass me while he was there. So those two, Zach Stewart and Lakin.
I got 2 quick thoughts before we continue.
All right.
First off, number 1, Zach Stewart was a bad dude. I could just see him revving up because before games he would be doing this number, and it's like he's going to freaking rip somebody's head off. I mean, there's going to be a 187 about to happen on that field, honestly. So where is he? We need that guy on the show.
Yeah.
If you can find him,
he would have some stories.
Oh my gosh! And you want to know something? Like you talk about Lakin too. How hard was that for that team to have one of your best offensive linemen tear his damn knee up right before the season starts? I mean, just imagine how special that team could have been if Lakin was available all year long, because the line did pretty good despite not having Lakin. So
for sure, yeah. I mean, going into spring, I was left guard, and I had a small injury, like tore some ligaments in my foot, and so they benched me, put Kelton Johnson in at left guard. And then in the scrimmage, when Lakin tore his ACL, then, you know, next man up, jumped back in at right guard and played there the rest of the season.
Played the rest of the season. You played the rest of your career.
The rest of my career, yeah. So
come on now.
It ended up working out, but I mean, he was incredible. Lakin was the real deal.
Yeah. No, that was really sad because I used to sit near his dad in the stands, and his dad still came to every game despite Lakin being out. Honestly, that's support and love right there, and that's got to be tough, especially for a senior. You know, for honestly, sure. And you know, Ryan, I want to just talk about it because, you know, here's the thing that more than anything, and you know that I have all love for this team, and I will motivate them if their coaches won't do it. If this show has been told that it's motivating other teams to whip us or, you know, get up for us, we need to have the reverse effect and get our guys up and so forth, because, you know, this team brought back 4 legitimate starters. We talked about how they could possibly go maybe 7 or 8 deep. And the thing is that I just do not see the consistent domination that I was expecting from this group. And I'm challenging them because they've got the meat of their schedule coming up. And if they thought that the first 6 games were difficult, it's about to get more real as you continue on. And as our buddy, the coach, says, we're in the 3rd quarter right now, and the 4th quarter is coming up, honestly. And so my question to you is, what propelled you guys and that group, whether it was 2013 or 2014, what did you guys do to make yourselves better and hold each other accountable because you knew the talent that was on that side of the ball? And it started with you guys up front.
For sure. I mean, I think my senior year, you know, the losing in state by 1 point, that was the only motivation we really needed all season. I mean, y'all walked around campus and saw the 28-27 signs everywhere you walked. Like it haunted us every step of the way. So we were reminded of the fact that we fell short and we didn't want to do it again. But I think the thing that we did really well, coaches can only do so much. You know, they can only set the temperature so much, but there has to be a catalyst or a group of guys on the team that run that set an expectation, that hold a level. And if people aren't stepping to it, you got to kick their ass. I was a bit of that necessary evil. I was probably too serious all the time. But I think, you know, preparing for today, just thinking about 10 years and all of that, I think the thing that's hitting me so deep is, you know, we fall short my junior year, first time ever being to state as a school. Senior year, we win it. And for us, that sells a story now, right? Like, for West, greatness is possible. For 2 years now, back to back, greatness is not just possible, it's expected of this team. And so that's a lot of weight on the shoulders of young men. And you gotta decide whether you're going to carry that mantle or you're going to let it crush you, because pressure is either going to be the thing that makes diamonds or it's going to break you down. So it's that point in the season where it's like, put up or shut up. Who are you going to be?
That's the most beautiful, poetic thing that I've ever heard, honestly, brother. And you couldn't have captured it any better, you know, and that's facts. Those are facts. I mean, you know, realistically, what more do you need? The fact that you've suffered more losses in this season than you did the last couple of years combined. You know, you've lost to a couple rival teams, you know, no matter the fashion that it happened, and so forth. I mean, what is going to be your legacy going forward is really the motivation. And, you know, the one thing I can say about you, Bud, is that you were such a great guy overall, but man, when the lights came on and the clock was running on that field, you were mean, you were tough, you wanted to bury somebody in the field, because guess what? Within the rules of the game, that's legal. And that's what's missing from this group of guys. Great guys, but I want to see that ferociousness, because I see it on the other side from the other teams. The other teams they see them banners. They see the rings.
We've got the target. We've got the target on our backs now. Yeah, for sure.
And here's the thing. At the same time, you should still want to have that motivation to show we're big brother and you're little brother, and we're the standard of 5A. It starts and stops here. So, to talk about that, you guys established that. Yes, there were a couple of years, but that weren't so hot for West. But at the same time, you guys really made it happen from that start because of the running backs and the skill players you had behind you. I mean, talk about that celebration with Nate. You would run down there no matter how fast or how far he was and scored that touchdown. Talk about that, brother.
I mean, as an offensive lineman in a split back veer offense, having a dude that runs a 4.3 behind you is a dream, so we were coached not just to sustain the block long enough for them to get through, but it was always go to the next level, find somebody. Like our mentality was you find work. If you beat the guy in front of you or you bypass or whatever, you were looking for work the entire time. And so anytime that I was climbing second, third level, whatever, if Nathan, Seth, whoever was breaking through, I was trying to get my big butt down there with them. So yeah, I mean, most often it was Nate. That's one of my closest friends even today. So we had to put the baby in the corner celebration that made me famous. Touchdowns and yards made him famous, but the celebration made me famous. But we had a couple other celebrations. We tried to switch it up and keep it fresh, and we always went back to Old Faithful.
I'll tell you this, your helmet, the back of your helmet and your big, strong arms were always showcased as Nathan did that perfect. Right. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, how many headlines I have clipped out from those News Sentinel. I mean, West, and everything. Yep. So
I was like, hey, there's my arm right there. Like I made it. I'm just
there it is. And you can kind of see your number. What was it? 61. I remember it, wasn't it? Yeah, 61. Yeah. So yeah. But Coach, what's one of your questions you got for Big Mini Fridge Perry here?
Ooh, what outside of the state championship? What is your greatest memory of football?
I mean, there's so many. I think. So this is my first year in the last 3 years that I haven't been coaching football, but 2 years prior I was coaching high school ball at Howard here in Chattanooga. And so I was on a team that unfortunately has lost a lot of games.
Yeah.
And if kind of wrestled with that thought of, at this point in my life, when I'm looking back, as many of the memories that I love, they weren't the big wins. It was us being at camp at Hiawassee, running hills together, miserable. Yeah. It was those things that you were just at the time seemed like the worst thing in the world. But just those dumb, fun memories. And then selfishly, I think one of my favorite memories was during the state championship. I had a bit of a small man complex about me. I'm like 5'11" probably 5'10". Say I'm 6 foot.
Hold on me.
Hey, that program listed you at 6'1", so you're 6'1" in my book.
Yeah. So we'll say 6 foot. Yeah, they were trying to help me with recruiting. They were looking out for me, but
you played like you were 6'1", but keep going. So yeah.
But so anytime I was going against people that were big or had the recruitment or whatever, like I had a chip on my shoulder. So in state, I'll never forget we go out there, and Kyle Phillips was mainly playing offense that game. He had a little bit of a shoulder injury and started there putting him in on defense because they needed him. And one of the first plays they subbed him in on defense, we called a timeout and walk to the sideline. And Coach Fred, the offensive line coach, and I lock eyes. And he looks at me and says, "Run it right at him." And I said, "Hell yeah, run it right at him." We go right back out, run right on top of him. Nate gets like a 35-yard touchdown. And it was that mentality that West has always had, is like, we're not backing down to nobody.
Talk about that game, Ryan. I mean, there's a few games on that season that stand out, and I know Nate talked about them, but, I want to get back to that state championship game, but I really do want to preference that William Blount game because, going into that game, you guys were 4-1. It was, again, halfway through the season. And, what people don't seem to understand is it's different now. You only have your 5A region opponents. Back then, you were one of 2 5A teams with a bunch of 6A teams, you know, and I think that made you guys better in terms of what you were going to face in the playoffs those couple years. But realistically, you knew you were better than Bearden that year. You knew you were better than Farragut that year. Cleveland. You even went to Asheville and played them, who's a very good team in 3A over in North Carolina. But you weren't winning by the numbers that maybe were expected. And so you're going into that game, finally a home game, because you had 4 road games in a row, which is insane to think about. And you're finally doing a home game against William Blount. And the first possession of the game, you know, uncharacteristically, Nathan fumbles the ball. It's recovered by William Blount. And you lose your temper. And realistically, as close as you and Nate were, you guys have an argument on the sideline. And you're like, I'm sick and tired of this. This offense is better than this. And then, like, he barked at you. The skill players are barking at the offensive line. But, brother, like, you guys put an ass whipping that and then it rubbed off on the defense that Max Bacon is returning a fumble 99 yards, and you hung 63 on William Blount in one half. It's still a record for West. Like, talk about what was going through your mind midway through that season, even with that motivation of the 28-27 from the year before.
For sure. I'll give you a little backstory. So this is in the archives. So
I like this.
Backstory. Yeah.
All the guys that I played with would make fun of me for the rest of my life because of this. So junior year against William Blount. So with Coach Cummings, the rule was if you win a game, when you get on the bus, you're expected to like throw down, party, yell, have a good time. If you lose, nobody says a word.
Silence.
And so if we came back,
it was like that back with us too. It was like
a lot of rides home.
Oh man,
when there was no talking on the bus.
Right? Yeah. So we had to run a couple times because we didn't listen to the rule. Like, they were serious about it. So, you know, we're playing William Blount junior year, and expectations are so high, even then, of who we are, what we're supposed to be doing. And junior year, we probably beat them by like, you know, 21 points, 30 points, whatever. It was sizable, but it wasn't what it should have been. And so I walk back on the bus, and everyone is like, you know, losing their minds, having a great time as we're supposed to. And I'm pissed even to that point. So I walk on the bus and I say, shut the hell up. I might have, you know, said worse than that.
Word, probably. So.
Yeah.
Hey, so, and listen, it's free reign. It's past 10 o'clock now, so you can say whatever you
so
want.
this is archive. Yeah, so this is I'm quoting.
You're an alumni.
This is a direct quote. This is a direct quote. No, but I walked on and started yelling. I was like, y'all shut up. We didn't play well. We don't deserve to celebrate. So, I mean, we win state, and Noah Hoxie walks on the bus and he's like, guys, shut the hell up. We barely won state. You know, so I lived with that over me the entire time I was at that school. But the level of expectation that we had for ourselves was so high as a team, not just as a coaches, not just as a school, but as players. And so our role was to keep each other accountable. And I knew Nate. I knew the level of expectation he had for himself. I knew Seth. I knew the linemen and the other linemen. And if you're not there, I'm going to tell you, just like if I'm not there, if you're my teammate and you're my brother and I trust you and you're telling me I'm doing a great job and I'm playing like shit, we're missing it, you know? So it probably is just one of those moments of me losing it. Like, hey, y'all, we're not where we need to be, and we need to wake the hell up. But fortunately, I was on a team that did the same with me plenty of times. And I think that the iron sharpen iron, like that has to be there on good teams, because, you know, you're always going to hit lulls. You're always going to have times where you're underperforming. And like I said earlier, coaches can't be the only ones to get it out of you.
No.
Can I tell you, I want Two-Pair to ask a question next, but can I just tell you, whatever the hell was said and done right then and there.
I don't even remember it. I got to be honest.
Because I was
I believe it was bad, though. Knowing me, I believe it was bad.
Well, and if you remember, because I was documenting things, I was a fan in the stands, and I was watching, and I was like, you know, and I was kind of like, you know, just kind of watching, and I'm like, where is that fight? Where is it? Because here's the thing. I remember that William Blount game junior year at William Blount. You guys left some points out on the field. Uncharacteristic turnovers by Seth and Nate. And realistically, I could see why you said that, you know, and because you know what, you were better than them, you know, and you were even better than them. And to start off with a fumble, uncharacteristic, I mean, come on, you know. And so I say that whatever happened there, these were the following scores that happened in those next 4 games. You won 70-14 over William Blount. So because of the running clock, you only scored 1 more touchdown, but 63 points that first half. Okay. After that scary good.
Crazy.
Scary good.
And it's the year offense, by the way. Like that's
Well, and you know what we didn't get to talk to with Nate about and so forth, and I almost wanted to joke around with him that another nickname of his was the Tin Man, because the Hardin Valley coach once uncharacteristically said that his running back had more heart than Nathan Cottrell any day of the week. So if you all didn't need any more motivation going into the sword and the eagle, the talon or whatever statue thing, 55-8 was the final in that game. Nate had 4 touchdowns. The following week against Heritage, who West just played, you guys won dominantly 62-21, and then you finish up on Halloween on like a freaking cold, rainy night, 55-8 at Lenoir City. Those were the 4 games going into the playoffs after that. I mean, just sick amount of points scored in 4 games.
Like just even being in it and watching it in real time, like I thought you guys could get back to state, but I didn't think you guys would win the way you won when you got there. Talk about that journey. What was it like every day seeing it, that you were 1 point away from being the first class, and then you become first class to do it, and now you kind of have been the tradition that the young guys look up to when they go back to back, but you guys laid the foundation of what was possible. Talk about like you guys laying the foundation now to where West is seen as a power, like West is seen as a powerhouse because of what you guys did.
Right. Yeah, I mean, no, it's been wild. I think the foundation probably was set a little bit more than we in my class maybe talk about, or as much. I think we should talk about it more. Some of the guys that were there before us. I mean, I remember being a freshman and a sophomore and having, like, when we walked in, we as a class were different. We had 3-4 guys that didn't graduate with us that were there as freshmen. I mean, if y'all have ever seen Last Chance U, Isaiah Wright was on our team as a freshman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had Kanan, Malik, 2 guys that weren't with the team any longer that were, you know, sharing reps at running back with Nate, playing DB. Like, we had just a ridiculous amount of people. And so we had all the talent in the world, and we needed direction. You know, we had a lot of guys as juniors, seniors that put into us a way of doing things that we carried all the way through, because talent that just has no base, you know, is ultimately, you know, I think it can miss the mark a lot of the time. So we had a lot of great guys around us. That I think that my junior year, honestly, that team probably was more complete than our senior year. We had a lot of really, really good seniors that year. And so coming back our senior year, like, we had some holes, like we lost a lot of dudes, and it's, you know, we next man up. And for us, it was just, there was no question. There was no way that we would ever lose. Like, that was, it wasn't in the cards, and we weren't going to allow it to happen with anything in our being. And like you said, that set a different standard for the school, but it had been building for a long time. And I think we just got to take the mantle to where it was already supposed to go. And it's cool to think some of those kids that might've been watching us at that point, like, they need to understand that we're now looking back at them. Like, we're watching you. What are you going to do next? And everyone that gets on this call, everyone that, you know, comes back and talks about the glory days, like, we're talking about what once was, but you're the only ones that get to decide what's going to be.
I love it.
So, you know,
bringing it tonight, guys.
It's cool. It's cool to be a fan now, you know, like I've been at the last 2 state championship games because I live in Chattanooga, and stood on the field and watched them win. And none of them really knew who I was. Mostly, some of them, maybe a couple did. But I got to watch them do back-to-back, which we didn't do. We were close, but they took it further. So, the hope is always that the mantle keeps going and keeps pushing, and something greater can be carved out. So I'm a huge fan of those guys.
I have two questions to follow up with that. Great question, Two Pair. I've always wanted to know what happened with Kanan and the other guy, because I mean, the thing was I remember people talked about them. Like, they're like, dude, not just Nate, but all of you guys. Like Coach Cummings privately said, and here's some archive stuff. He said that freshman class is pretty damn special. And I heard that he told the upper class guys, be nice to them, honestly. And ultimately, you guys were the backbone to make that state championship run in 13 and 14 happen. And that senior class ahead of you was very special. Khalil, Kelton, Leonard, Leon Humphrey, Cody Underwood.
Countless.
Underwood.
Cody Underwood. Before Ryan Scott, there was Cody Underwood. So,
that team.
Yes.
Cody Underwood on the show.
I love Cody Underwood.
Man, he was so tough. Like, because the thing that I don't know if people really get this, but the offense and defense, we hated each other.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you
like
did.
Genuinely, because depending who you talk to, our offense probably got a little bit more like press, and the defense hated us for it. So anytime we did one-on-ones, like ones versus ones, very rarely, but when we did, we were going out for blood. Like, we talk shit to each other every single day. I looked at them wearing the black shirts. I was jealous as hell. We were always going against each other. And I think that made us better. Like, a dude like Cody Underwood made my life hard. Those guys were incredible.
I know that Kelton and Noah couldn't stand each other and so forth.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, the amount of arguments that we got in practice, times that players would hit Seth and Coach Cummings would halt practice and chew him out. Like, I mean, we didn't pull punches very often.
You know what it reminded me of a little bit? Everybody knows I'm a Miami Hurricane fan, but it reminded me of those days of the U back then, because they used to hate each other, offense, defense, and their practices they felt were harder than the actual games when they played. Games were fun day. Practices was when you really wanted to go after somebody and so forth. And I saw that mentality with you guys, especially from that 2010 to that 2014, that 5 years there. It was a very intriguing time to be a West football player, as well as a former player that got privy to the practices, because I loved watching you guys sometimes practice and so forth. Some people didn't see me, but I'd always have a cigar, kind of just hiding. And here's the thing: back then, you talk about another thing where the softball field is. That was your practice field, because you didn't want to mess up the grass on the field. You had to make that thing last all year long. So,
and the flooding. The flooding where the linemen practiced, man, it was, we were thugging it out there. It was not always great.
Yeah. Well, but like I said, I was just curious about, what happened with Kanan and that, though, if you can talk about it a little bit and so forth. So
and I won't lift the lid too much on their story, but it was just some legal stuff.
Okay. I hate hearing that. There's been a lot of guys like that behind the scenes that, unfortunately, but that's what makes our school so diverse and special, that you have, Coach Two Pair, we talk about it. We're all from different aspects, but we came together and became brothers. You know what I mean? And we wouldn't have met, other than West, because of our backgrounds and everything.
And we miss those guys so deeply. I mean, I played with Malik in Little League, the 1 year that I played for West, and both of them, just the energy and the relationships that they brought. I mean, they were great guys. So, it was tough without them for sure, but we made do.
Absolutely. Coach, you got another question for Mr. Mini Fridge Perry?
Ooh. Give me a minute. Come back to me.
I'll come back to you. I've Two Pair, to go off of your other question that you asked, Ryan, talk about also, what you guys did. If you can talk about your coach, because realistically, Kevin Day also helped coach you guys, and he was also the strength and conditioning, a cool, wild dude.
Good dude, yeah.
Carson
Yeah.
Newman guy,
Yeah.
you know, from kind of like that. What would you call that area? It's kind of like that area between Cleveland and Ray County. He's like from over there and so forth. It's like the mid East Tennessee, you know. Like, but he knew about Ray County. He knew about those teams. I think he went somewhere over there. So
I'm blanking.
Yeah, I'm a blank too. But he knew those type of teams, and he even prepared you guys that Ray County wasn't going to quit. Forget about those refs being a pain in the ass, but you know, they almost cost you guys that championship. But realistically, he told you they're not going to quit. Like even if you're down, if they're down. So you know, but talk about like the coaching you got from him those couple years.
Yeah, for sure. You know, so it all started with Coach Fred. For us, who, you know, he was there all 4 years, and incredible coach. And like you said, the last 2 years I was there, they brought in old Kevin Day, and he was a teacher, a history teacher in school. So we had a couple classes with him, and he was just a guy that like I think I connected with pretty deeply from the very first day, and latched on to him as much as possible. I mean, he was basically a couple years out from winning the Remington Award, you know, for the best center in college football. I mean, talk about the person that, as someone who was going to play center in college and knew that from day one, that you know, I was around him as much as I could be. And he was a high energy guy. I mean, he would run onto the field every day and yell, "It's a great day to be great." And constantly, "It's a great day to be great," just yelling at the top of his lungs. And the thing that he had that I really think you know, as a coach, I think one of the greatest hopes is that at some point your players begin to resemble you. I think to some level there was a switch that flipped in me with Coach Day, that like a piece of me being a dog like that. Like I had some plays that you said anything within the you know, the letter of the law. Like I stretched that as far as I could, and you know, got after some people, and that was Coach Day. Like he would celebrate the hell out of, like, if you went like an extra mile, if you were cut blocking someone and you bear crawled 5-10 yards and just kept going relentlessly. Like he was that high motor, relentless guy. So he celebrated that, and I think every single one of the linemen, like we began to embody that, and just a hell of a coach, and even a better man. I mean, love him to death.
And just talking about that, like, who are some of like those unsung heroes that people don't talk about when it comes to your team, Ryan? Like, of course, I think a lot of times that offensive line doesn't get enough recognition for what you guys were able to do with Seth and Nathan and Christian Romines.
I mean, he's one of those guys, unsung guys.
Yeah, just talk about like those unsung guys that people don't really talk about when they bring up your championship ball club.
For sure. I mean, offensive line wise, like two guys jumped into a starting rotation for the first time, both on the left side, you know, Ben Mixon, Keyshawn Dockery, and did really well. Rob was center, and he and Blake had shifted a little bit the year before, you know, young guys playing as sophomores. So, but, you know, had to step up. And then beside me, I had Isaiah, and I feel like Isaiah and I've had a pretty strong partnership on the right side. So I think the line ultimately clicked pretty well and found a rhythm. But man, Christian Romines definitely one of those guys that whenever his number was called, he did what he needed to do. Didn't always get the praise, but like he's just a gamer, you know, one of those guys that just makes it happen. Umar, he was one of those, like, he was a captain senior year, receiver in an offense that you're not going to get the ball, and worked his ass off every single day.
His mom was awesome in the stands too. Umar's mom, she was like the team mama too. She was
so I mean, he was huge for us. I mean, his character was incredible. Man, I mean, there's just so many. Eric Middleton was great. I think he was.
Middleton
wore my number 45.
I think he probably didn't get as much as he deserved. You know, Leonard on that team was huge. I think he started getting more and more love on the back end. I mean, the names could go on forever.
Sean Highfield, who's actually the half brother of Terry, who we played with.
Yeah. Sean was great. So I've known him like most of my life. Shimlock, Hayden Shimlock was a dog. Tommy Pridemore probably doesn't get any shout outs. Tommy Pridemore was such a good corner. When you looked at him, you thought, no way. But he would go up against anyone and was just like a pest. He was in your hip pocket. He was slapping. He was grabbing. He was poking. And also as the holder on the team, and always talked about how good his holding was. So
that's the other thing about you guys. Like, I love that story of when you guys went to the and I don't even know if they do it anymore, but you know, the main guys got to go on Monday to have that lunch, that breakfast of all the TSSAA. And there's Hillsborough with, you know, Kyle Phillips and Vincent Jackson, you know, 2 UT, and they look like the part, and you guys are like, and you guys are like the tennis team. It looks like the tennis team and one little fat guy in Perry. That's what it looked like. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the only person we brought with us that had any, like, he looks like a football player was Noah Hoxie.
Yeah.
You know, everyone else was like looking like a frat dude. You know, it was a lot of like jeans with cuffs and Sperry's and
collared shirts. I mean,
like they literally they stood up from their table in unison and walked over to us and one by one shook our hands and introduced themselves, like looking at us like, man, we're about to just dog y'all. You could see it in them that they genuinely believed like this was going to be easy. So I mean, really, we didn't look the part at all. We did not like.
That's good. Yeah. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. Shane, do you got that question, bud? I want you in on this, so yeah.
Trying to figure out how to word it. So you said you've coached football in the past. What got you into coaching?
So my main gig is I'm a pastor out here in Chattanooga, and have worked with
the Lord's work.
Yeah. But we do a lot of team programming out here in South Chattanooga. So with the kids that go to Howard, and to be honest with you, I went to a scrimmage and I swore my entire life that I would never coach football. It was the last thing. Like I was like, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna have my career, be done, never coach. I was at a scrimmage and I watched the center snap it over the quarterback's head 4 or 5 times. And I showed up to practice the next week. Walked up to the head coach. Yeah, walked up to the head coach.
Got bit by the bug.
I said, hey, man, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I would love to help out. And he was like, yeah, we don't want no dad coach stuff. Like, we don't need someone from the sideline talking. And I was like, well, I played football 11 years, won a state championship, played a little bit of center at UTC. And he's like, oh, okay, like, you come back tomorrow. So ended up getting to help out with the team for a couple years. What's that?
Resume show.
Right. But yeah.
Ryan, that's one thing that I think that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. There was a lot of publicity with the team. Nate obviously going to Georgia Tech. Alec, went over there to what was
Furman.
It? Furman.
Yeah. So Bergs went to Furman.
Noah went to Air Force before transferring back over to Marshall.
Went to Wofford.
You went to Wofford. You went to UTC though, and talk about your time there at UTC, because obviously you must have loved the city enough that you now live there, and your cause is, as a pastor, is going there right now. So talk about that journey, if you don't mind, brother.
Sure. Yeah. So I was a preferred walk-on. I was one of those kids that. I was really arrogant, not because I thought I was God's gift, but because of the work that I put in. So I wasn't going to do anything below 1AA, and I was happy to do a preferred walk-on and prove some people wrong. So I got to show up at camp and, walked into life as a college football player and had some highs, had some lows, got some really good experiences. So I was there for one season. Knew about halfway through that I was going to stop to pursue ministry. Had, some very specific things that happened that I felt like that was the next step for me. But I didn't want to quit in the middle of a season. So I wrote it out and walked in the coach's office after the season, thanked him for the opportunity, and transitioned into ministry. So it was a pretty quick thing. I think ultimately I described football as a vehicle for me. It ultimately got me where I was supposed to be, got me to the city that I'm in, that I call home. And you know, gave me some of my best experiences and memories, and you know, but set me up to do what I think was my next step.
That's awesome. You know, can I ask you another thing? Because you mentioned Howard, and you know,
Mhm.
a lot of people don't realize that a long time ago, Howard used to be a very good team that people
Right.
feared.
Right.
Same with Chattanooga Red Bank. Can you talk about how difficult the public schools are when you have two unbelievable powerhouses in McCallie and Baylor with all the nice stuff, the private
Sure.
stuff, you know, and they're not only gobbling talent in your area, they're coming from all over.
Everywhere. They got kids from Canada. Like, I mean, they get kids from everywhere. Yeah, so Chattanooga is really, really private school heavy. I mean, obviously you have the Baylors and Macaulay's, but you also have, you know, schools like Boyd, who went to the state championship last year. You got the Notre Dames. You've got countless private schools in Chattanooga that really just pull from talent. And the public school, the level of public schools in Chattanooga with football is so far below what it is in Knoxville. And I've seen that definitely the whole time I've been out here. You know, unfortunately, that's not what things were historically, as you said. Like, Howard was that team that you didn't want to play. You know, it's Reggie White's alma mater, like one of the most historic schools. But now, like, they have 30 kids on the team, freshman, JV, and varsity, and it's a 5A team. So the level is different. You know, they have open enrollment out here, which is, you know, kids can kind of pick where they want to go to school based on some different things. So it's a complete different conversation. I mean, like, to think Howard and West are both 5A just doesn't logically even make sense to me.
No, no. And I think that that's why, realistically, with no disrespect, you know, that's why I think the quad 1 and 2 teams are always better and more prepared than the quad 3 and 4, you know, realistically. Now that could change, but I just remember 25 years ago, nobody wanted to mess with
Nobody.
Red Bank. Nobody wanted to mess with Howard.
Nobody.
And the truth of the matter is, where would Gerald Riggs Jr. have been going if it was, you know, now? You know, he'd probably be
Right.
at Baylor or McCallie, you know,
Right.
and getting showcased as opposed to being at Red Bank. So yeah,
No, for sure. For sure.
so yeah. Do you guys got other questions? I don't want to hog it, but I just love that, Ryan, you come on, you know, and you talk to me off camera, and we're like, you know, hey, I'm just honored to be on, brother. You like let me just tell you this: to take that path of ministry and want to make a difference, not only in kids' life, but also people's lives, because people, you know, look at the devastation that just happened with this hurricane, and there's homes that are gone. There's people that have nothing, that maybe had nothing even before. And, you know, you look at natural disasters and it's like you almost ask that question of faith. Faith gets questioned during those times. You know, people look to people like you for counsel. You know, how do I pick myself up and go? You know, I mean, that's special, brother. Not everybody has that. So never, you know, like, minimalize what you do, because we need people like you, people with a cause. That's what this show's all about.
For sure.
And, you know, and you know, we have somebody on here, we had a guy that we played with that never thought in a million years he would make the difference that he would make, and even write a book and so forth, you know, and Troy Smith. I mean, you think about things of where you were in high school, but what would a message be to maybe a kid that's on the team, super talented, maybe football's not there forever, and they really don't know what they want to do with themselves? I mean, what would be your message to someone like that, that's not knowing what they want?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say do the thing that's right in front of you as best as you can. You know, when you talk about the rebels with a cause, and you look at all of us that are 10 years out or 15, 20 years out or whatever, like, I'm standing on today so much of what I picked up when I was at West High School. You know, there's so many times that I default in life when things get tough to those 2-a-days, 3-a-days, to camp, you know, to tough times, to overcoming and winning a state championship, because I've proved to myself that I've done that before. I can do it again, if that makes sense. So for the young guy that, you know, might not know what's next, but knows what he's loving to do in the moment, I would say, man, enjoy the hell out of it while you got it. And, you know, Nathan talked a lot about this. Like, those are the best days. Like, man, it is something so special. I was somebody who really tried to rush to what was next and didn't take advantage of it as much as I could have when I had it. So yeah, take full advantage of it, enjoy it, make the most out of it, be great there, because being great at one thing is going to make you be great at another thing. Discipline begets discipline. Like, the more that you do and the more that you learn and grow where you are, where your feet land today, the more like you are to put it into practice the next step, wherever that takes you. You don't got to have it all figured out, you know, just be great one step at a time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want you to stay on the show with us, man, if you don't mind, and talk a little ball with us and so forth.
Yeah, I got plenty of time.
Awesome.
Loving it, man.
Well, let's talk about this, because unfortunately this game was supposed to be homecoming. It was supposed to be Friday. This horrendous hurricane changed everything. School got canceled. So I'm sure that was kind of a weird thing for you, Shane, you know, especially a single father trying to figure out what you do with one kid and you got to work. And, you know, yes, you have the older sister that can maybe watch, but she don't want to watch her little brother. I mean, I'm just saying, it was an inconvenience that came out of nowhere. You had people scrambling, trying to find when to play these games. And what we were given was a 3 o'clock game in the miserable rain. It was a shame because the everybody looked wonderful dressed up. I was watching on Diamond Clear Media as well, Two Pair. And so they had the camera rolling. It wasn't what the festivities should have been on a Friday night. And I know stuff happens and everything, but the end result was West 38-13. Heritage scored on a running clock against the backups to make that score. But realistically, West again dominated from the second half on. But it was another slow start where they were only up 17-6 at halftime. So, guys, let's talk about this. I'll let anybody have the floor at this point. Like, what does West have to do? Because you cannot ill afford a slow start against the caliber of an opponent you're about to face this Friday night.
I talked about this last week, that you've got to put your foot to their throat for all 48 minutes, and we're still not seeing. And teams are exploiting it real freaking quick. I mean, yeah, you dominated how you needed to in this one, but when you go up against a team like Alcoa this week, like, you can't just be like, oh, we'll come back out in the second half, or we'll start playing the second part. You have to go full on right there for the first snap, bust them in their mouth, and play football for 48 minutes. You can't just play part of it and expect to get the result you want. Something's got to click in their heads, say, okay, we got to take this serious if we want to achieve what we've been doing.
Two Pair, very well said, Coach. Two Pair, can you elaborate of what you were talking about earlier? You know, again, we have the talent. I mean, you mentioned Jack Keith. He had another pick six, and he actually leads the KFL right now in interceptions, a linebacker, no less. And, you know, he even had a pick six robbed from him, too, because of a ridiculous penalty. But he almost has one every game, it seems like. I mean, just talk about what this talent needs to do to get it all together for maybe an upset, because I'm going to be honest with you, nobody's given West a chance this Friday night. I've never seen West a bigger underdog than I've seen. I mean, the disrespect on the coach team message boards, I'm seeing scores prediction of 42-14, and to quote my favorite movie, Rocky III, pain. I mean, what does it take to motivate you to go over there and do something about it, Two Pair?
You know, that's what I've been trying to figure out with this team. I can't put my handle on it, guys. Like, I've watched scrimmages, I've watched them play games, I've seen them against the upper echelon competition, like when they played Maryville, and it was just like we didn't seize the moment, or we played uncharacteristic. We couldn't get teams off third down. Like, we keep having these sustainable drives against teams, and we're not imposing our will like the teams of last year, the year before last. Like, it's not the same type of team, because a fan, I'm not gonna say their name, we talked about this after the game, and it's like, are they the defending state champions, or are the guys that already graduate, or those they're defending state champions.
Wow.
And that's the question I ask myself, because I too much talent. Like it's the time. It gets to the point of I'm saying to myself, and I say to you guys in the group chat, talk about. I'm like, we've got a ton of talent to play lackluster the way we have. Like I felt like the Farragut game, we saw an offense explosion. I think Clinton just undermatched. Central gave us everything we wanted that first half, and then we kind of took over with the special teams player Riley Manning. Like, we've got guys that can make play. That's not a problem. It's, can we put together a complete football game up against Alcoa, Anderson County, Powell? We just don't look like that up against the upper echelon guys. It just is what it is. Like, we've got a great group. We got a great staff. All that's great, but it's just got to be on the players in position to take it to that next step. That's all, man. Like, that's where I'm at with it.
Ryan, to allude to what Two Pair was saying, you mentioned earlier you guys had to do it yourselves. You know, that you had an unbelievable coaching staff, just like this coaching staff and Coach Brown. And I also want to give two shout outs because I want your thoughts to say something else about this guy. With the win with Weston Heritage, Lamar Brown got his 150th victory as a head coach in his illustrious career. So congratulations, Coach Brown, on 150. And Morgan Shaver, who played with us, was actually my freshman buddy when I was a senior. With all his years at West, him and his father, who's an amazing guy, Scott Shaver. But Coach Shaver got 150 wins with the program. I mean, that's something special.
Incredible
right there as well. Wow. So shout out to both those guys. So I want that to be known. And the big screen gave a great tribute, which as well as it should have been deserved. And that's what sucks too, because there weren't that many people there. It was a dreary, horrible Saturday afternoon. And the sad part is that, you know, not everybody got to really partake in that like it should have been on the Friday night. But they have a great staff, like Two Pair said. But the coaches can only do so much. What's your take with this, Ryan, and what you've seen from this team, what you've watched this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's 10:55, and y'all said it's fair game. So,
it's fair game.
Oh,
We're
alumni. Hold on one second. Wait a minute. Let me just throw this up there.
Okay. I won't be too crazy out there. I'm a pastor, so I gotta.
I know you do, but I light a fire under these boys. I love them to death. It's tough love from
light the
James.
fire, fan the flame.
Come on,
just 100%. Y'all just got to drop your nuts. Like, you just got to man up. I mean, it's 100% a mentality thing, and I'm a little bit partial here, but it starts with the O-line, starts with the big guys, O-line, D-line. You've got to decide that you were going to control the line of scrimmage. And for us, when we were there, I didn't give a shit about what Nate and the other guys were going to do. I was going to take care of my job. And I trusted that Isaiah was going to take care of his job. Rob was going to take care of his job. And the next man beside us. And if you do that as an offensive line and a defensive line, especially in a team that has talent behind you, no one can touch you. No one can touch you. But if you're waiting on somebody else to make a play, it's never going to be done. So, yeah, I mean, you can't – I mean, I'm just a firm believer. You can't let your coaches want it for you. They can't go out and get it for you. They can't be your main motivator. They can't be the one carrying it. So whether it's an individual or it's a group on the team, y'all got to step up and just be the driving force. And – you know, maybe you need an asshole that yells at people on the sidelines at halftime, or I don't know. I don't know what the cure is, other than the fact that you've just got to decide in your mind you're gonna impose your will on the person in front of you, and not back down. You just got to drop your nuts. I think it's as simple as that.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that. Very well said. No, he's brought it tonight, man. I love this. And, you know, Coach, to talk about what he was talking about, you know, you think about this, and you've mentioned this. Two Pairs mentioned it. I mean, I can't believe we are now in game 7 at this point. We're past the midway point. And, you know,
past the midway point.
I want to know, you've got 20-something seniors on that team. Who is going to step up and be the Ryan Scott or the Anderson Smith or the Braylon? You know, I mean, I just want to know. I mean, who is it?
The thing is, if we're this far in the season and we're wondering who's going to be it means that there's not that person in the locker room.
And I don't care if it's an underclassman. Somebody needs to freak out.
I do like what Messiah Wren said after the Central game.
Yeah.
I do like what he said after the Central game when we got to interview him. He was like, it's on us as seniors. You know, we know what it is to go to the mountaintop. And
is he a senior? Because I thought he was a junior. I thought he was a junior. So I thought he was the only one who was a junior. Yeah, because McAllister's a senior and Tavion. Maybe Messiah is. I thought he was a junior on the roster. So shoot.
Yeah. I mean,
but he's right though. He's right.
He's a leader.
He's a leader.
He's a leader. And you know, like, and I take what Wyatt DeRoche said when we interviewed him this summer about. This is what it takes. It's got to be on us. And I think Hunter Dance had one of the better quotes when we interviewed him this summer. And he said, you know, I'm not going to lie. We're a running football team, but that O-line, that D-line, those guys won in the trenches and made my job easy. So as a senior, I got to be a leader and I got to play mistake-free football. And that's what I sense with Parker. I think Parker is one of the more intelligent quarterbacks in Knox County. I think probably the next guy up is that kid out in Gibbs who we've been raving about. Warren Axton might be one of the better quarterbacks in the city. And I'm talking about talent beyond talent, because he's took that Gibbs team and like they are a problem right now just because of the way he carries that team and the way he is when we saw him in that scrimmage. And it's like I feel like these seniors, I think they might be pressing too much. I don't know if they let the game come to them.
I mean, I hate to say this, but I don't see anybody having fun out there on the offensive side of the ball, like especially the offensive line.
It looks like a job.
It does. Like the defense is having a good time. I mean, shoot, they're whopping and hollering, and Jack Keith is doing his thing. But you know, Ryan, you were a captain as an offensive lineman. You know, like you have 4 seniors on that offensive line, and not one of them walks out there for the coin toss.
Not one of them.
Just curious. And I love them. I love all them boys. I do. But where is it? Where is it, man? One of those hog mollies needs to be like an imposing dude that says this is how it's going to go. I mean, this is how it's going to do it.
Because that rubs off. You know, you set a standard in that pretty quickly. One thing that we had, I'm not sure what the breakdown is currently, but we had a leadership team that, you know, had a group of guys from every single class that we would meet on Sundays and talk. And I think for us, that was instrumental because we could talk very openly about what was being done, what wasn't being done, what we needed to do to correct it. And then internally as a group, we made sure it happened. So, you know, I think any team that has the possibility of having a leadership team of players from every single class, something like that is invaluable. Because I mean, we had a group of guys that, like I said, just held everyone accountable, from pee on the seats to running through the line at practice. Like we held the bar pretty high for each other.
And just talk about what does accountability do for a team that's striving to do what they're trying. Like, I think there's a ton of pressure, and I just want to say, like, what do you think accountability would do for a team that has the pressure of being the class that could be the first to do something that's unprecedented?
Right. Yeah, because now you're talking dynasty, right? Like the conversation switches up real quick. I think accountability isn't isn't a blanket thing. Accountability with different kids and different systems looks different. So for a team like what we got right now with what y'all are saying, maybe accountability looks like someone being like, hey man, you need to have more fun. Like the accountability that I got from my teammates was, hey, chill out. Like be the guy that shows up and presses us and works hard and is vocal, but enjoy this. And I needed that accountability because if I didn't, I was going to miss it 9 times out of 10. You know, so for a team that, like you said, it looks like a job. Sometimes accountability looks like having that dude that's like, hey, lighten up, free yourself up a little bit and go out and perform with what you have. We've seen that we can do it with what we've got. You know, sometimes expectation can be so pressuring and so confining, but expectation shouldn't be that. It should be an invitation of like, you have everything in you already. Go enjoy the hell out of that. Like, don't box yourself in. Like, you guys got what you need. Enjoy it and celebrate and lift somebody up in the end zone every single time you score. Like, enjoy the hell out of it because it goes by quick. Like y'all said, it's week 7 now or whatever. Like, it goes by so fast. So,
and listen, avoid a flag because God knows we can't get one on this team. But I'm just saying that, like, go on the sidelines and jump up and down. I mean, you know what really bothered me the most, guys, like about the Maryville loss or whatever? You had younger guys that were kind of laughing on the sideline. There's nothing funny.
Laughing.
There's nothing funny.
Yeah, no, and that starts with the seniors.
Like,
that starts with the seniors. Like that's one of the things that we would nip in the bud. But if we were up by 50 and we weren't playing in the second half, we would be on the sideline acting a fool. Like there's a time and a place for everything.
Sure.
I remember we would be on the sideline having photo shoots with Miss Polly Birch mid-game. You know, freshmen would be on the field in the second half. We would be acting like we were watching, taking pictures, having a good time. But
and you were rooting the younger guys on when somebody made a big play that was out there. You were having a blast, man. I mean, that's just the thing. I mean, like I said, this is all love, and there's going to be tough love, and I want to be proven wrong. I want them to tell me, yeah, keep motivating us because I'm tired of motivating the other damn teams. That's what I see.
And you know what's sad? You know what's sad, Ryan? Since we've been doing this show since West has been taking off in football and basketball. We have now become the school that people talk about because they use the podcast to fuel them. I never thought that would happen, but I'll link it back to that 2014 team and what you guys have done as a standard and what these kids after you have said, you know what, those dudes were the first. So we're going to keep this tradition rolling. And I kind of liken it to the University of Miami. Like, it's kind of that brotherhood where now some of the old players are friends with the new players, or they're exchanging IG, they're talking. Like, that is really dope, man. Like, and the fact that you're in ministry and you're teaching guys how to be a Proverbs man 31, it gets better and better, man. Like, seriously.
Hey, Ryan, to echo what Two Pair said, you should see the amount of hate comments I get sometimes, honestly.
I believe it.
And it's like, look, listen, man, if you need a 40-year-old broke down has-been or whatever, I'll own it, man. Shit, my knees hurt, my back hurts.
Yeah, like,
I still get up and throw weight up or whatever at Planet Fitness in the morning, you know. I'm a dad. I mean, you know, that's what I am. I mean, shoot. So, but the fact is that like they love rubbing it in when West don't bring it or whatever like that. And it's like, okay, all right, that's fine. I mean, you know, but look, I don't talk the trash. I let my team do the talking on the field. And I just want them to have fun out there because like you and Nate said, and everybody has said, if you go back to all of our guests in the respective sports they played, you only get this chance once and it's over like that. And like we mentioned, poor Lakin, he didn't even